I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we're diving back into some more productive bees, getting ourselves a Nomad bee and converting that into some useful blood magic materials. Hopefully you guys are ready. So getting back into some more All the Mods 9, today we are going to be playing around with some more bees, and in hopes that we can actually increase our production of the blood magic materials, because that is honestly what's holding us back from the ATM Star. Now, several episodes ago, we went through and we pretty much produced everything we could from blood magic, and we got the ability to automate our runes via our modular routers, but the only thing we didn't automate was our life essence. And another thing that we at the time wasn't able to automate was the production of the forge materials. So we had to actually grind for these intricate Hellforge parts. Well, not anymore, because this bee is actually available now. And what we can do is make this bee, and it has a chance, just like our other bees, to produce the intricate forge part with a 1% chance, which is actually pretty good with the speed that we're producing these at. But now let me be clear, getting this bee is not an easy task, because we have to rely on some RNG, unfortunately. And that requires us to get the Nomad bee. Yes, the good old Nomad bee. Now, there are a couple of bees in the Productive Bees mod that require you to kind of have bees in a normal hive, its base hive, and then they kind of get replaced. This one being one of them, the Nomad bee. So this is a sneaky bee that will lay its egg in a nest belonging to the Ashium bee. So the nest belonging to the Ashium bee, we have to keep that in mind. And this will kind of take over. It doesn't remove the Ashium bee, but it will make the Ashium bee somewhat homeless after it moves in. Now, I think one of the best ways to set this up and to make this quick is to simply make yourself a little area, much like this. So I have myself here a little glass room that will actually hold 16 of these base hives. And then I can go ahead and close the door. By the way, these are create doors. Create doors are so cool. If you didn't know that they can do this, look at that. I just want to do this all day. But anyways, back to the hives. So if we take these dirt nests, which in this case, they only produce 3 different types of bees, a leaf cutter, an ashium, and a chocolate bee. And we're going to place all of these down and get them all activated. Now, the chances of us getting all of these to be ashium bees is 1/3, roughly, right? So we're not going to be guaranteed those bees. So we might need to pop through here and try to find those that aren't and pick them up in a cage until we have quite a few in here. And the goal is that those bees over time will pop out of here and have a chance of them somehow allowing a Nomad bee to take its hive position. And that's basically it. And we just need to keep an eye on it. That's why I made this glass. Now, once we have one, then we can kind of automate this process. Now, believe it or not, these dirt nests, they work just like regular hives. So let's go ahead and place down some poppies just for their flower. And as soon as we have this ready to go, we just need to activate all of these and kind of get them up and running. Yeah, get these bees a spawning, because nothing's going to make this faster other than getting it started. So now we have to worry about them going in and out of the hive. And so right there looks like an Ashium bee. This one looks like the chocolate. Let's go ahead and grab any of them that are not Ashium bees. So there's a leaf cutter. And of course, these bees have their own uses, right? But there we go. So we have like 3 of them as of right now. There's still, I think, some hives that still are on like cooldown and about to spawn. But the more of these we have laying around, the better chances we're going to have each time they go in to actually get the Nomad bee. So those bees just pollinated, and as you can see, they are now inhabiting this nest. And whenever they come out, I believe that's when they have a chance. Now, the documentation on the Productive Bees mod is not quite all of there, but the descriptions are quite explanatory. And you just kind of have to do a little bit of experimenting. And I have played around with this before, and so I will know that when this comes back out of the hive, there should be a chance of a Nomad bee spawning. Now, also, if you already have some Ashium bees, you can go ahead and click them onto empty hives just like this, and it will take those hives as their home. Now, once you have a few bees, just like I do behind me, set and ready to go, your best bet is to probably not look at it for a while, because staring at this will just make it take longer. So work on something else in the meantime, because this could take a little bit. But before you know it, you might actually start to see those nomad bees inside of here. You're going to be looking for these little joyful looking fellas. They have kind of like a yellow smiley face. Now, in the meantime, I kind of want to start prepping some things up on my actual blood altar here. Now, at the moment, we are producing runes via manual. So I was producing runes by placing them in here. They would go through the different transfer, and I would have to make sure this was filled up by hand within blood magic. And so I was just using my dagger. I believe, let's see. No, I was using my sacrificial knife, which I never upgraded to the dagger of sacrifice. And that's because I didn't want to set up the thing underneath, because we could just stand here and insta heal. And so that kind of made that whole thing kind of moot. But now we should be able to actually pump life essence into it. And to be able to make that possible, if we're going to set up the bee, we actually need some special runes that are going to go on the sides here that we can put out here that are going to allow us to even think about pumping fluids into this, because by default, the pump rate is incredibly low and we need to expand that. And for that in particular, we're going to need to use a displacement rune. And this will allow us to essentially pump and pull fluids out of this altar pretty quickly. So I've been doing a little bit of work sort of prepping for the fluids that we're going to be handling within our actual comb production. So let's go ahead and check. Do we have anything here? Looks like, there we go. We have a nomad bee. So we do have one inside. Now, if they're in the hive, you can actually punch the hive with a stick, and that should force the little bee out. It just stung me, didn't it? Oh my goodness. And it died. So yeah, you could anger them if, yeah, you do that. That was unfortunate. Don't do what I just did. Okay, so while I wait for another bee to spawn, let's talk about what I've been doing. So I went ahead and made a mega importer, and this is going to be pulling the fluids out of this tank, and it is just going right into our network. And then the way that it detects what to send to, I'm not sending it to fluid cards. Instead, I'm going to send it to these fluid drawers for functional storage. And I went ahead and locked them and placed the fluid inside. Also put the life essence inside. And the way I was able to do that was I was able to just hook up a pipe to this and just send the essence that was in here into a tank, grab a bucket of it so I could filter this out. And so I just placed it in and locked the drawer. That alone creates a filter for our importers that you see back here. And this right here will pull the fluids out, send it automatically into this container, which will then void it once it has reached its max fluid count in here. And so hopefully whenever we get these nomad bees going, we can actually start to produce some life essence and also produce some of that demon steel from the Hellfire bee. Okay, now this time I see the nomad bee. It is right there. I'm going to be ready to go to grab this. Okay, good. This time we have the nomad bee inside of here. Now, I would love to have 2 nomad bees because I'm pretty sure we can actually breed these. But one of the first things I want to do is just turn it into an adult bee, and then we can use it as a filter. So now with our bee technically as an adult, hopefully this bee is not looking to sting me. We're going to go ahead and set it as a filter by right-clicking the filter on it and then put the bee back into the cage. Okay, we should be good. Now, why do I want this filter? Now, this filter right here allows me to filter the catcher. This thing is pretty cool. So we should be able to place the catcher down inside of here and actually catch these bees as they pop in instead of me wondering if they're going to show up. Instead, we can use a catcher with a filter inside with these bee cages in here, and that should catch those nomad bees that show up. And this doesn't require power or anything like that. Just needs to be in here and have a filter in it, and it's ready to go. Now we just have to wait until we get another one to spawn. Now, while I was waiting, I went ahead and got my exporter set up. So I have my exporter set onto the bottom of my fluid altar, or my, my blood altar, and I just have it ready to go. So all we have to do now is just wait for the bees to show up and get the bee side of things done. So after a quick little lunch break, I came back and there are now 2 caged nomad bees. And that's perfect. We actually only needed 1 of them because I believe we can put these inside of a breeder and we can actually start breeding these up. Now, interestingly enough, while it doesn't show the icon of the bees actually breeding together, it is actually breeding the bees up. And we now have a Nomad bee over here that just came from this breeding process. Now, technically, instead of doing the squishy bee thing like I have been doing, we can put these Nomad bees inside of a simulation, I believe. So if we have the bees, I think with a simulation upgrade in here, we can put this in here, the Pokey Pokey gene sampler. And the more of these we have, the higher chance that we have of actually getting gene samples from these bees that are in here. But unfortunately, it seems like with the Nomad bee, we can't actually get it into the hive, not at least this particular hive. So the use of these in this unfortunate form factor, while convenient, doesn't work for all of these bees. As you can see, they're not going inside of the hive. So it looks like breeding them up and giving them the good old squishy is what we're going to have to do. And that sounded so wrong to do that, but yeah, we're going to have to give them some pressing. I'm sorry, Nomad bee, it's for your own good. Because we're going to need this to be able to make the actual spawn eggs for these guys. So after a little bit of squishing and a little bit of sampling going into our powered centrifuge down into our gene indexer, we now have these samples right here. And these are what we're going to need, much like all of the other things that we've done before. We are going to need to add these to a treat. And essentially, we're going to be turning this into a bee egg. So we apply that, and now we can, yeah, effectively add that to the egg. So I'll just toss them in here like so, and then that will just continue to process them. So perfect. I now have at least 5 of these eggs, and technically I do want 5 of them for right now, because the first bee that I really want to make is the yeah, this bee right here, the one that's going to be making blood for us. All right, Google came in clutch. Hematophagus. Man, since when did I need to be a doctor to play Minecraft? I have no idea when that change happened, but yes, this is what this bee does. And what we're going to need to do is essentially just convert them. And we only have to do this once, right? So we place this egg in, and it is going to do the whole conversion thing that we're going to want. It's going to take a little bit of our life essence to do. And there we go. We have now converted it into a, regenerative egg. Well, that's a little too far, right? Yes. So in reality, we will eventually upgrade it immediately. So this will happen so fast that we'll save this egg for later, but this is going to happen so fast. We have to keep an eye out on it. There we go. Now that's the one we need. And I got to get all of these converted to that tier. And then we're going to get these bad boys in a beehive, because I want this to start producing blood infinitely for us. Oh, which is going to be so nice. We no longer have to poke ourselves to refill this thing. Now, I went ahead and just crafted up 4 of the top tier productivity omegas, and I'm going to put that in here, and we are going to get these bees up and running with this. So all I have to do now is essentially spawn these bees in, and as soon as we spawn them in, we just catch them just like this. So how nice is that, right? There we go. So now we have all of the blood magic bees, and this is the weirdest way I have ever done blood magic. Normally I would do the ritual, but I thought this would be kind of cool. And so these are all running, and then we also have the soul surge on these things. By the way, they did change the recipe of the soul stuff. They do require all the modium now and vibranium, but we already had that by the time that we got this up and running anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. So I still got to get one more of these bees, and once we have that up and running, this should really jumpstart. Oh yeah, it does require us an item, right? It won't work unless we have the item in here. Now, the block we need for this does require another bee, a very special bee actually, and this is going to be an amber bee, which is going to allow us to get the block that we need for this, which is an amber encased mob of some sort, like a cow, for example. And this bee, well, it shows the one way we can get this. Cold Ocean Ruins. Looks like we're going to go get our trusty brush out again, and we are going to go hunt down for this amber bee, because we need it for this thing. Now, I am using my structure compass with some night vision to be able to see this, and I have searched for the Ocean Ruins Cold, and honestly, I would miss this if I was just wandering about. This would be so hard to see. You would need night vision, and even with night vision, it's almost as if this doesn't even exist. But this is what we're looking for, and hopefully we get lucky. On our first draw, no way. The chances of that happening are not high, I don't think. Oh my god. Out of several things we could have got, that was the one thing we just got. This is the amber bee. Yes, that's the amber bee. Not to be confused with the amber herd. That's something totally different. Now, there is another way that you can actually generate this suspicious gravel if you're looking to do that. You basically convert gravel with a sussy bee. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's really not much else I can say about this. And the sussy bee comes from the sniffer. So you would still have to go out and hopefully find yourself a sniffer egg, but the sniffer egg has the ability to sniff out the sussy bee. Now, I did go and grab myself a cow, so I have a cow in here, and then we have our amber bee. So let's go ahead and place our cow down, and let's spawn our amber bee. And I don't even think this needs a hive. I think this works without even needing a hive, and this will eventually encase this cow in amber, oddly enough. Now, I did go ahead and give it a hive just in case, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave them in there and let them you know, duke it out. So I think it's about to convert this. It gives the mob luck, it looks like, right before it's going to convert it into amber. And we're going to see these green particles like we're seeing. It took a couple of times for it to go in and out for just one bee. If you had more than one bee, I'm sure the chances of getting it would be a lot higher. But this should convert it into amber just like that. Oh, that's so nice. And it went back in there, and we have now the ability for us to pick it back up later. So, and use this for something else potentially. Now, we do want to pick this up, I believe, with Silk Touch. So we do want to pick up that amber block with Silk Touch, and now that contains a cow. And now we should be able to get our bees actually up and running and producing combs. Oh boy, because it now has the requirements needed to keep it inside of here for these production upgrades. Well, Houston, I think we have a problem. Even though it shows in JEI that these can use these blocks right here as a pollinating flower, they don't. And they can't be put in the simulation either. And I'm guessing the only way that they can actively pollinate is if they have an actual physical animal in the world. Now, I've gone ahead and created myself a little area over by my blood magic place, and this is where I'm going to try, and I'm going to try and use this physically. Now, these bees are going to have to, I guess, spawn in, and so that's going to be kind of interesting to do. I'm going to go ahead and put a door here. So let's go ahead and get a door set up real quick. This is a temporary door because I will be closing this off and we won't really have to worry about it much, but I do have to spawn the bees in, and I want to put these productive beta upgrades in here. Unfortunately, I can't go any higher than this because if I do go higher, then they act as a simulation upgrade, and I can't use these bees apparently with the simulation upgrade as of right now. So I am stuck with only these, and I don't think that these are going to speed it up, and this could result in this being a lot slower than I was initially expecting it to be. So to get this to work, I just need to click the bees onto the hive like this, and they will go directly into the hive, and then we just need to simply wait for them to come out. And it's probably because it's nighttime right now, and as soon as they sleep, we'll see if they'll actually pollinate on this block. If not, then I'm going to go ahead and get a physical cow spawned in, and that's when I got to figure out, do they actually harm the animal? And then I got to figure out, if they do, a solution to that problem. Okay, so it does look like they may potentially be pollinating right here, which is really, really good to know. And it does show there's like a luck 5 on there. It's really an interesting effect when I'm looking at this. But yes, it does seem like they are potentially pollinating, and they should hopefully be generating some combs. So yes, from the looks of it, it does look like these are actually using the combs, and that's really good. Now, I don't think it's going to be something that will just be able to run passively along with the bees, because I do feel like the bees not being able to put in a simulation upgrade makes them way, way slower, because we do have to wait for night cycles and all that fun stuff. But we should have combs like slowly starting to build up. And what we should see, if I turn this on, the combs should now be processed, and we should start seeing this slowly fill up with blood. And it is. Look at that. 52 buckets just from those combs that just came out of that hive. Okay, so scrap everything that I just did, because I actually figured out how to get it to work. Instead of using a feeding slab, we just place this directly down, and look at this. Oh my goodness. I was wondering, and this was the only thing I hadn't tested, And this is why I would love to test things, because just removing the feeding slab allows this to actually work. Wow. And now I can have these max upgrades and now use a soul surge on it, and no need for that other setup, because now we can just speed these up incredibly fast. Oh, this is definitely going to start filling this way faster than I was planning. Okay. And I think now we have it. All of that trial and error just for it to work this way. Here for a moment, I was starting to question why this bee even existed with how slow it is. But nope, now I can tell it's actually incredibly fast. We just had to do it correctly. I love this. So now with these bees up and running, and I just wanted to make sure that it was working. These do actually require, however, day-night cycles, and they do follow that still. But I just wanted to make sure and fully test. And yes, it is still functioning. It's still generating. Oh boy. So now what we need to do is take all of our new Nomad bees. We should have plenty of them. Yeah, there's a ton of Nomads in here now. And I need to process up to the Hellfire bee, which just means I need to get more of those regenerative bees. And technically I already have that bee. So you know what, let's go ahead and just convert this over and get that starting to produce. So surprisingly, I had just enough parts, which were the 3 that were left over. And if you remember from that episode where we did farm these, this was a very grindy process, very, very grindy process, where you have to get lucky and find the dungeon in the first place and all of that fun stuff. So we did manage to do that. And now we have ourselves the bee. Oh, and I'm glad I grabbed a little bit more. In reality, we only need like 36 more of these blocks, I believe. But we should be good. Now we need Demonite parts from Blood Magic, or Demonite blocks. And we should have plenty of that resource. Yeah, there we go. So we'll take those, and a Hellforge block is what we use. And then this one should be as easy as spawning it and grabbing with a cage. And there we go. And setting this loose to be simulated is going to be very interesting. I love how tiny this bee is, actually. All right, so we're gonna put that in there. Now, I don't think I need this. I think instead we just need speed. I don't know if the productivity is honestly going to help us as much as just making sure as this is doing as many operations as possible. It would be nice to also have more of these bees, but I really don't want to go back into the dungeon, so I should just wait until these bees produce enough of those parts in order to just make more of them, which we will do. So now I thought this was going to take a really long time. I just accelerated this to 256, and I've already seen 6 parts because it gives you 3 parts. What? Okay. Yeah, we already have 6 new parts now just from me using a little bit of time in my time in the bottle. What? So now I just spent a little bit more time to get the actual same setup over here. And I could even set up another one. I'm still not sure if the Soul Surge being on the top of the box here actually increases the speed of it, but still having 2 of these setups running for the blood is going to allow me to do my next part. So let's go ahead and see if we can't sustain sending the material, the stone, into here to be able to produce the things that we're going to need to make more of these runes, aka the ethereal slate. Now, I already have 36 of these because initially I only thought I was going to need 9, but then realized I'm going to need 18 Aldermod stars to be able to make the bee that I want. And this right here, well, this kind of put me in a tough place because this was very challenging to get. Probably one of the most tedious processes out of all the Aldermod star to actually gain. And now we've just essentially made it super trivial because we have access to all of these resources now. And I should be able to make these slates very easily now by just sending stone into here. And then if we check here, hopefully we will end up having this set to ethereal slates. So if we go to ethereal, we'll set that. And now the automation of this should be pretty straightforward. We just simply put the stone in, and that's going to be more than enough. Just putting it by hand, no need to just pump it in. And that should send in here. And what we should notice is we're not losing any of our blood. So I would hope. Now, I don't know if we have too many speed runes, because if we didn't have as many speed runes, this would not be as big of an issue, because this would be able to maintain. But what we'll have to keep in mind is this is going to drop, but then it's also going to refill and it's going to drop. So hopefully this is enough, and it should be enough to at least make a few of them. And then, yeah, it's going to build up over time, if anything. Yeah, I can already tell just from the looks of this that we do have too many speed runes, I do believe. And it's just because our pump rate, there's no way for our pump rate to actually keep up with the speed that this is going. And that's with me running 12 displacement runes. Now, replacing all of these speed runes with displacement runes seem to be making this fill up a little bit faster. That is honestly the biggest bottleneck, because pulling blood out of here is pretty quick, but actually putting it back in, that's where this thing does not transfer fast at all. Now, honestly, all of this was a bit extreme, especially for something that we could get from a Well of Suffering, which is a ritual from blood magic, but I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of do it this way and utilize bees for once, since, well, I never really play around with the bees. Now, honestly, after today, I am pretty excited because this was going to be one of the grindiest things that I was going to have to kind of clean up before we finish up and get to the actual All the Mod Star production. Oh, and I am so happy that we now have this up and running, because this is going to be a very nice thing for me to not have to worry about, basically. And with that in mind, there's really only a few more things left to do before we start to actually craft this thing. I'm getting pretty excited, and I hope you are too. And if you're looking forward to the All the Mod Stars craft, well, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also give this video a huge thumbs up. And thank you guys so much for watching. And well, I think it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Private. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord and becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. And that is through the Discord. Speaking of Discord, be sure to join it if you haven't already, as we do have an amazing community over there. It is open to anyone, so I would love to see you over there, and especially if you have some questions, be sure to ask them, as we have an amazing team of people who are willing to help when you need it most. So, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye.